Now, I've got another panel coming up here for you to keep the excitement going on here. So here we're going to have, if Mesh, I don't know if he's out there, if he's ready to come on up. There we go. Mesh Flores. He's here from Capgemini. He's going to lead a great fireside chat. So I'll let you have the stage and bring up our leaders here.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well. I'm well. Let's just say hi. Let's see. Give you a mic check. Can you guys hear? Can you hear him?
Hi.
There we go.
Back in the corner.
We got a thumbs up back there. All right, you are cleared for takeoff.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So we're waiting for our panel to get mic'd up. As you get mic'd up, come on and sit down, and then we'll get everybody up here and do the intros. But over the last few days, I know that there's been a lot of topics and information covered around AI, right? And so for us today, this is going to be the next step. And what our panelists are going to try to do today is just shed a different lens or a different view of some of these questions for the last few days that haven't been answered. So we'll be with you for 45 minutes. For that, we'll have, I don't know, 6 or 7 questions. I'll have a couple of, I'll start out with an interactive game that Gene actually took 2 sessions ago. So I had 4 questions, I'm down to 2, right? But we'll do that to kick off. And then we'll have our panelists introduce themselves, and we'll get the session started. So as we wait, quick question. So Gene had to raise your hand about who's already working with AI, Gen AI, right? So we saw that. Okay. The second question is, how many of your companies or organizations have implemented Gen AI at what you would consider scale? Raise your hand. 2%, right? So, and here's the other question. So, how many of you in the room have so many pervasive Gen AI or AI models hitting your phone over the last 2 weeks? How many of you have seen kind of an increase of that or stories that have happened over the last 2 weeks? Raise your hand. Oh, I can't see over there. Okay, got it. All right. So today, that was my icebreaker. So today what we want to do is we're going to get started. We'll let each of our panels, starting with my left, right, introduce themselves. Who are you? What do you do? Yeah. And where do you do it at, right?
Awesome. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I won't be afraid if I slip some Spanish here, so I think that should be good. Manuel Masri, I'm a cloud partner at EY from Argentina, been in the US for 14 years now. I started my career in Argentina, moved to the beautiful country of Colombia, stayed a couple years there, and then I moved to Atlanta and Charlotte, starting here. So, pleasure to be here.
Hey, good morning, team. My name is David Martinez. I work with IBM Consulting. I'm within the retail industry, serve the #1 retailer in the world, as well as #3 within the US. We're doing a lot within AI, within Gen AI, and I'm happy to be here.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jacaira Nunez. I go by Kai Nunez. Hello, Salesforce team. I work for Salesforce. I've been a Salesforce employee for 14 years. The entire time I've been at Salesforce, I've led research and insights for our product organization, specifically focusing on artificial intelligence, on our platform products, on privacy and security. But the distinction here is that my focus is on the user experience, the product experience, and the market experience. So what I do is I weave all of that primary research data into basically a tiny little internal LLM, and then I provide insights from that data for our executive stakeholders to be able to take action against it. That is data-informed and data-driven. I am a former Capgemini consultant. I am also a former Deloitte consultant, and I'm so glad to be here with my new familia.
La new familia. So I'm the least important person here on this stage, but I'm with Capgemini. Run the North America go-to-market Salesforce practice for resources. You guys can talk to me later about what resources means. That's a long explanation, and we're on limited time. All right, so the first question, and maybe Kai, we'll start with you.
Sure.
Okay. What excites you about AI? But more importantly, what do you think that we have to contribute? And how do you think it's going to impact us as a Hispanic and Latino population?
I love this question because we co-created it. So With respect to the Latino experience with AI in particular, I am seeing a dearth of a representation that's adequate. And so for me, what excites me about this community in particular is how we might be able to take ownership of that. How do we create an opportunity for our own appropriate representation in the data? We could create these LLMs that represent us. Many companies already right now are creating segments using data at scale that represent us, that define us, that target us. We should own that. So that I see as a critical opportunity for us as Latinos here, and is our imperative as technologists here to take ownership of our own data and to be able to take it forward so that it serves us.
Agreed 1,000%. No, I agree with everything that Kai mentioned, right? She's awesome. You know, to piggyback on that, Dario Gil, who's part of our research within IBM, he just went ahead and created the first Spanish LLM, right, in Spain, right? So, imagine, all the possibilities now, right? We used to always have the LLMs in English, blah, 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 blah. But now we have a Spanish-speaking LLM, right? Where we can, in fact, in other countries, take advantage, right? Help, the up-and-coming technologists, right? And we can actually start deploying solutions in Spanish or what have you, okay, taking advantage of our native tongue, right? So really excited about what the research is doing around Spanish-speaking LLMs.
That's awesome. Maybe addressing that from a different angle as well. So seeing how cloud adopted, it's been adopted in the US and compared to Latin America, where there was a slightly delay of adoption, right? So over the last 10 years, mainly in the US has been pushing for that, but over the last five years, so we see a lot of progress in Latin America. Now what we're seeing is the companies that have been adopting at least some portion of that on cloud have been exposed to Gen AI. They're going faster in terms of adoption of new technologies, in this case for cloud, modernization of applications, reduction of technology debt, that in some cases is faster than the US. So it's great to see that talent because we're trying to capture that talent to bring it into the US. So in case of Latinos, like we have been working with Argentina, Chile, Brazil, Colombia, and expose them to Gen AI, SDLC, bring the experience of transformation to the US using those technologies that they have been using for the last year. Yeah.
And so Manuel, we'll stay with you, right? Because in the last panel we heard about the healthcare industry, right? And you focus in the financial industry,
Yeah.
right? So can you kind of walk us through kind of how you've seen the financial companies adopt cloud, right? Because they were one of the first that did that, and now kind of what do you see the difference, or can you kind of educate us on what we're seeing on the Gen AI trend for them as well?
Putting back in time. So we started working at EY with cloud in 2014, right? And we see a lot of companies adopting hyperconverged infrastructure, trying to consolidate infrastructure, meaning compute, storage, networking. And the adoption for cloud was very slow, meaning they set up small teams, the CCOE, the classic CCOE, they adopted small MVPs, minimum viable products, small applications. On the insurance side, probably they focus more on the actuarial side. Probably on the banking, they were probably focusing more on the back office, but nothing as a big push to the cloud. It took several years to do it, right? Banking probably ahead of the curve compared to insurance and WIM. But with Gen AI, it was a little different. In terms of adoption, right, on the cloud side, let's say 70% of the company, they have 30% of their workloads right now in the cloud. When we start looking at Gen AI and starting, 2022, we saw that adoption of the 30% that has adopted, it is at the same speed as the other 70%. Meaning the ones that didn't spend so much cycles on transforming the applications, they're doing it at the same pace with a lot of Gen AI SDLC. That has been driving a lot of the cloud adoption a lot more rapidly than it was before. The same thing for the transformation of how they bring to these solutions to the customer. So although they focus a lot into the back office for the last year, we see a higher demand on developing business-based use cases for GenAI and using responsible, but using exactly business case. I think it was in the last panel when they were mentioning from from a risk management, from a fraud perspective, a lot of use cases has been on that side to help innovate and bring new solutions to the customer. So yeah, so in terms of adoption, the last 2 years probably has been a lot faster than the last 10 years in cloud. And we see that spike going ahead of trade, even with regulations that might come, right? For years, when we started working on cloud, we didn't have any regulations, right? It took sometimes for either the FDIC or CCM to bring new regulation, new structure, new type of controls that we need to apply for. But right now, after a year, we got some guidance on what we need to follow. And the companies are being proactive in developing that responsible use for GenAI.
So, yeah, so that's interesting, right? Because I mean, when we're listening to all the speakers, people speak, everybody's at a different pace, right? And it's organizational change, technology change, trust in the technology, right? So Kai, to you, right? So as kind of the people that are planning the next step in their career, right? And also the businesses that are saying, you know, what do I do, right? Can you give us some insight on kind of what you may think they need to think about, or any tips in regarding to how to start implementing AI in their business if they're in that foggy part of their journey right now?
Yes, I have frameworks. Those of you who know me know that I absolutely love frameworks, and so I'll share a few with you here. The first framework that I use often is jobs to be done. As a researcher, this is a pillar of my team's work. We use this to identify top pain points and top opportunities, both from a market perspective and from a job use perspective within our businesses. And we use those to prioritize what we want to focus on next. I posit that those things that have the highest opportunity scores are oftentimes the items within your business and for your customers that are the most ripe for AI disruption and value. So that is one framework. If you're familiar with the jobs to be done framework, awesome. If you're not, check out Ulrich. It's one of the models. You can buy the book online, and it teaches you how to do it. It helps if you have some data scientists on your team. Another framework that I like to use is called FIRST. It is a framework that was co-created by myself and several other individuals within Salesforce and the World Economic Forum. The base of this framework was developed for CEOs to be able to deliver and build safe products for children. But as you can imagine, safe products for children apply to everyone. And so the framework is called FIRST, and that is using this rubric of being fair, being inclusive, being responsible, being safe, and being transparent. The distinction is always like the devil is always in the details, but the fairness part for me in particular is the most important. And that is that you have to weave the voices of the people that you're planning on building your product for into the product development lifecycle. And that is by interviewing them and by finding out what their needs are. But you must go further. You must also identify those individuals who you have not targeted, who might be unintended users of your products, because those are the individuals who may be harmed by the products that you're building. So by using F as your first step in that framework, you're really bringing people along in the journey of building products. Why is that important? Because when you co-create the development of products with people, this is not new. When you co-create with people, they are bought into the product, from soup to nuts. So those are two frameworks that I use with my research and with my team and with all of our implementations to be able to help drive success for our customers and for ourselves.
Thanks, Kai. So I think it was the first session this morning, right? We were hearing about. I think someone asked the question in the audience about how, as an employer, can I get prepared, or what do I need to do, right? So David, from an employer and an educator perspective, right? When you take a look at the market of how it's going to change from when we were coming through college and technology versus what our children have to face and what they're going to do, right? So what can employers, educators think about to ensure that they're equipping, you know, the people with the right skills, the AI tools, the experience, you know, but more importantly, regardless of their background or availability to technology, right? Because we are talking about there is a technology gap when it comes to a majority of our population and kind of how we're represented across the United States. So can you give us some color on that? Across the world, absolutely, but I just made the United States comment, but go ahead, David.
No, this is Meech, is a very good question, right? And one that I'm happy, that you've asked, right? To answer the question, right? How do we ensure that AI tools and education are, within the schools, with employers, with adult learners, right? I'm going to take it from a framework around the schools, okay? We got to get into the schools, right? We have to be on the ground. We have to speak with the Board of Education, right? We have to speak with your local governments, okay? IBM has a rich history in solving or tackling a lot of these issues, okay? We work with high schools, okay? In fact, in 2011, we actually partnered with the New York City Board of Education and the city of New York University to design and develop our first P-Tech school. It was located in Brooklyn, New York. I wish it was the Bronx, but that's okay. It was in Brooklyn, right? The goal of P-Tech, we had two goals, right? The first thing we wanted to do was to address the global skills gap, right? And to strengthen the regional economies by building a workforce with the academic, the technical, and the professional skills needed for these new collar type jobs. Okay, the second goal was to provide underserved, okay, with a innovative education opportunity, okay, that has a direct path to college and career readiness. Since we started P-Tech, and one of the original sponsors of P-Tech is Jesus Mantas. I'm not sure if Jesus, if you're still here this morning or not. Right now we have 300 schools globally, all right? And we have more than 600 companies that are partnering with these schools to develop a wide range of courses within a wide range of sectors, right? We have nursing, we have AI, with project management, developing, right? So there's a lot of different things that these companies are in fact contributing with. Along with P-Tech, IBM has our Skills Build platform. Okay, the Skills Build platform is free education, okay, free, literally, right, for students, educators, and adult learners, okay? IBM has a goal of training 2 million people in AI within the next 3 years. And we're hoping to train 30 million people in a diverse set of skills by 2030. So the platform for educators will not only teach them new skills, okay, but it'll also help them create plans, okay, or educational plans that they can go into the schools and teach their students the diverse set of skills that they've learned. So ensuring that AI education, that AI tools are accessible to all students regardless of their race, background, ability, is crucial for promoting equality and inclusivity in education. We have a really special guest, Catalina. I don't know if you're around. You can stand up, right? Any companies that want to, learn more and see how they can participate in our Skill Builds program, please feel free to reach out to Catalina. She's there to help.
Awesome, thank you. So when we kind of put all that together, right, and this would be a question open for the panel, so whoever wants to start, right, but from a security perspective, right, I mean, there's different lenses that we keep talking about, right? We got product, we got software product development, right, and kind of SaaS, we got consumer products, we got finance. So, kind of there's a broad group here. What should we think about, regarding how to manage the risk, the security, the privacy, and the ... unknowns, right? That kind of are going to we're going to be exposed to, at hyperscale, right? That there's the things we're thinking about and the things that are yet to come. So can you give the audience some insight on that?
Yeah, and you brought up a good point. Right now, the hyperscalers are making the big push for their own Gen AI solutions, right? And for the companies that have been pushing to the cloud, I think it's like a perfect set because it helps accelerate that adoption. Now, from a security standpoint, they usually try to point 4 items that we usually look at. Even on the previous session, they mentioned data quality is a huge for any internal models, external models that they use to have that proper set of right quality of the data. The second one, we look at usually companies trying to adopt what we call the simplified models. So models that can be easily to understand and explain because there is usually an analysis that needs to be done from a risk perspective of what is the impediment for that model. The other one is usually we look at models where they are, sorry, is it? I don't know if it's me, but from an ethical perspective. So we will look at models that try to be not biased. So we look at models that actually they're fair in terms of the judgment that they make, and they don't have any bias for any gender or analysis. So from those 3 perspectives, they're purely on the data side, but there are also other components from a user perspective. So a lot of it is on the usage of this modeling and how far they're going to go for. So a lot of the safety, it is actually part of that training that it needs to be across the organizations that we usually try to provide, either with Microsoft, AWS, GCP, all of them. They are coming together to have that Salesforce. Another one, but yes, they're trying to come together to create that safety net for common usage of Gen AI, but with the platform from a risk perspective. Controls, they're still applying for the models. Everything, if it is in the cloud, usually for the ones that are leveraging the different hyperscalers, there is a set of controls that we usually align for or align to. That's still going to continue to it. The data itself and how we use that is going to change completely when companies start adopting this model for their own internal data, which haven't seen that much yet. We have been using the large language models with a lot of trained data from the web. A few companies are daring right now to push some of these data, and the ones that are more mature in terms of the scale of adoption in the cloud, that they're pushing some of their data limited in some capacity, not a lot of pushing PI information into these models, but they're experimenting on how it can help, even from a consulting perspective, how it can help on a proposal, right? Based on the thousands, millions proposals that we have done in the past, right? How can we help on the delivery side, but also on the business? How can we better identify if it is a fraud event or not, or if it is a false positive? So there's a lot of potential implications from a security perspective.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kai.
So very quickly from the product development lifecycle side, I've seen some initiatives taking shape at Salesforce, which is really investing a lot of time and energy on privacy by design and secure by design within the product development lifecycle, right? So from the outset of building a new product or feature that you actually, as an engineer, have that marked as a part of your definition of done. The hard part about this is that it puts more work on the developers and more learning on the developers, and they are not an exhaustive resource. So all of a sudden, they have to become versed in data, versed in security, versed in privacy, in addition to doing their day job. So what help are they getting to be successful? It's questionable. So one of the things that I think is we have to think about is the implications to what Omar has said from the very beginning, is what are the implications to the human experience for all of us who are building these products? Because it's no easy feat, this transition that we're undergoing. All of these layers just add more work, and they can't all be automated by artificial intelligence.
From a CPG retail side, I am very excited where the industry is heading. with the enablement of Gen AI, right, we've really been able to help, in a various different capacities with these companies, right? We're leveraging Gen AI to help with marketing campaigns now, right? We're leveraging Gen AI to personalize shopping experiences so that when you do go, when you go into a retailer, you jump on your phone and you'll have a whole bunch of different coupons that's made specifically based off of your shopping habits, right? We're also leveraging Gen AI to help create private labels, right? You have a lot of stores that that are now into creating their private labels and really seeing how they can make food, right, items, right, a little less cost less based off of today's economy, right, and based off of today's inflation. So within the CPG world, right, there's a lot of innovation that's happening today, and right now, if you look at where we are, if you look at 5 years from now when we start bringing in quantum computing, right, with Gen AI, right, now you can really start thinking about the possibilities, right? The possibilities are limitless, right? So with all the good that's happening within the world, right, with Gen AI, with the advancements that we're making in quantum, right, there are some bad actors as well, right? So we just need to make sure that these corporations, the companies that we're working with, that we're partnering with, are in fact preparing their environments today, right? So that by 2030, when we do in fact hit Q Day, right, there isn't a lot of disruption, based off hacking and things of that nature. So very excited as to where we are, Mish. Thanks.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I think I'll hit an interesting question depending on what side of the agenda you are on with AI and whether you're in North America, Europe, or somewhere else. So David, I know this is a passion of yours, right? So, who or what do you think, how or what new area, right, should be responsible really for the creation, governance of some of these standards, right, as we all are embark on this different, right? I mean, every software program from a Capgemini perspective that we implement, support, or try to add value for our customers has a roadmap for an AI, right? And so kind of, that's on the business side, but as you meant on the personal side, right? So there's really two different aspects of it, right? You may or may not like a personal shopping model that pops up with those things that you cannot get out of, right? So, what's your thought, or who do you think should regulate, or where do you see that going, right, from an industry perspective?
So very interesting topic, one that we should be discussing, right? And I'm sure it's going to bring varying points of view. If you look at all these companies building and deploying AI and the consumers that are using the technology, I think that we're all going to agree that trust has got to be of the utmost importance, right? Companies want comfort knowing how their AI systems are making determinations and whether or not these determinations are in compliance with any regulations that are out there, right? Consumers, on the other hand, they want to know how the AI systems are being used, how it's going to impact their lives, and whether or not it's trustworthy. IBM has long argued that AI systems need to be transparent and explainable. That's one reason why we did support the EU with their recent passing of regulations around AI. In an article that our IBM's Labs policy wrote several years back, we articulated the need for law enforcement to have a disclosure requirement when they use AI for facial recognition, right? We believe that something similar should be adopted specifically for AI. Okay, this is why we are calling for precision regulation. Okay, we support targeted policies that increase the responsibilities of companies to develop and operate trustworthy AI. Companies, can implement things like, designating a lead AI ethics officer, right? That'll be responsible or accountable for internal guidance and implementing the compliance measures, right? Companies can also adopt a don't hide your AI policy, right? I think we all know or believe that transparency builds trust, right? The best way to promote transparency is through disclosure, right? Now, I'm not talking about giving up your secret sauce, right, for your technology, right? Instead, companies should focus on making the purpose of their AI technology clear to both consumers and to businesses. Governments, on the other hand, they can create standards that are globally recognized to help create consistency and certainty for consumers. They can incentivize companies to voluntarily embrace globally recognized standards. So to answer the question, Meech, I believe that the responsibility falls upon both companies and governments to work together to create a set of ethical regulations that disclose how AI is being consumed by the end users.
Interesting, yeah. No, it's an interesting, difficult topic. In my house, me and my wife have two different points of views, right? It hits you totally different. I have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I look at them and go, wow, what are they going to be exposed to, and what am I doing now to impact them? It's just a concept that I wasn't really thinking about 5 years ago, and the birth of my second son. But now it's up in the forefront, right? So I think, Kai, I know you've been waiting for this question, right? I think this is a question you're really passionate about, right? So can you just tell us how, we, the collective, the product collective, just your point of view on how do you ensure transparency, right? We've talked about trust, we've talked about regulations, right? But kind of ensuring transparency is, that's hard, right? So give us your thoughts and how that can be accomplished.
Well, I don't think we can ever ensure transparency. Like, as a child born of legal family members, ensure is one of those words that you always strike out of all legal documents. So I think it's virtually impossible. But I do think that there are some things that we can take accountability for as leaders. I know we're short on time, so I'll be quick. And that is that there's this concept that I have that is around value-driven supply chain. And when you think about artificial intelligence, and particularly with generative AI, the supply chain that we're embarking upon is data. And there are large language models, there are data sets that people are buying. These data sets are all biased, every single one of them. So not only are they biased, but oftentimes they are curated by labor that is not properly paid for or taken care of in countries such as Africa and other locations. And so we are seeing this sort of change, a new form of supply chain market that is extractive, and it's not great. You have the opportunity in your domains to be able to choose very selectively what data you choose to bring into your system and how you choose to train your models. So one version of transparency is to be very values-driven on what risks you're willing to accept for your business and what values you want to embed in the way in which you're capturing and then using data to train the AIs that are going to drive your businesses.
So we're actually doing great on time. I was worried about it with you three, actually, when we were on the phone and talking through this. But I think for the audience, we're going to ask one more question to the panel. So if anybody does have any questions, feel free to make your way up. We're going to try to give you 5-6 minutes to do that. So feel free. But for the panel, because
I have a great question.
Yeah.
But you were talking about your kids, right?
Yeah.
And the people that have kids, they're worried about what they're going to study with the advancement of Gen AI. And they already keep saying, it's like, you know what? They need to focus on prompt engineering. It's like, that's the future. It's like, is it? So one other question I would love to hear from Kai's perspective, from a product standpoint, because what we notice is over the last year doing large AI transformations. In some cases, Gen AI can make a developer a really good developer if they have the core knowledge. But it was very risky because for the not so proficient developer, it make it a really bad developer. And we create a lot of checkpoints along the way, around the quality, around security, to validate that because we didn't trust that code. But we couldn't make it aligned to a resource. It was, we need to do it for every single component. But from a product perspective, Kyle, do you see something like that? Do you see the value of core knowledge that the developers will bring is actually higher than the ones that don't have that knowledge?
What I'm seeing is that experts are able to use prompt engineering most effectively, right? Because they have domain expertise, they have deep knowledge, they know what data is in the system to query, to write their prompts. And if they're lucky, they also have some sort of, I don't know, LAS degree so that they can write effectively, so that they can cue the prompt machine to give them the right response. So that's what we're seeing more than anything else. We're also seeing, just from the research that we've done recently in-house, that more junior staff, they're not equipped to be able to be great prompt engineers because they don't have the depth of knowledge of this data that they're querying. So then we're seeing this sort of disruption, this growth, this separation between those that are expert and those that are more novice. So ultimately, to your point a little bit, is that there still needs to be training and education to get them to be experts so that they can be amplified, so they can do the job of 10 people. So that work still needs to happen. And then a plug for LAS, like learn how to communicate effectively, learn how to write effectively, because it can only help you for the future, these soft skills, to amplify our value going forward.
And just to answer your question, so I think both of my children are very effective at prompt engineering me, right? so I don't know how, but me and they're extremely effective, naturally effective, right? So real quick, just we'll get to your question. My last question, and you guys talked about it, was, every time we think about AI, it's the impact on the workforce. What's going to be taken away? What's going to happen? But what I'm hearing today, right, is kind of, it's not effective without
People.
exactly, right? Or the models are not effective without context, right? And so, that's one of the, it's not a myth buster, right? But it's kind of one of the things we keep hearing about, how much is it going to replace? It may replace that stuff that we don't want to do. I'd love a robot to fold my clothes every day, right? Stuff like that, right? But some of the things, when you talk about the education, when you talk about the context, you talk about the learning and the writing skills, for me, those are going to be much more effective or impactful, right? As the industry grows, right? And as that changes, because you'll be able to get better responses, right? And I think that model is just going to change because you're going from prompt engineering to eventually conversational models, right? That's going to be coming, right? So, all right, so I'm going to pause this there, and I want to thank you for that. And I'm going to go ahead and open the floor up for questions over here.
Hello? Oh, I accidentally took it off the thing. Sorry about that. Hi, Christina Mondini. I do product at Salesforce. And my question is around, we know Hispanics have this entrepreneurial mindset, right? That's why we're all in this room trying to help one another. It's a two-parter question. What industries that are typically Hispanic-owned do we think are ripe for disruption? And how can we help these companies that maybe don't have access to this great information that you're sharing in our own communities help leverage AI?
I'm going to answer the second question first. What can we do to help our communities? What can we do?
And I'm going to give you a minute so we can.
Oh, I talk a lot.
I'm going to time check this so we can get through some of these. Okay.
I'm a big advocate, and if we're talking about helping our communities, we have to be in the communities, right? We have to go down to the bodega. We have to go down to the schools. We have to go down, and help our communities and educate the communities as to the benefits of AI and Gen AI, right? And how they can leverage these models, right? maybe, help them come up with a marketing campaign, right? So that, now my one small bodega is, I've helped him, purchase his first grocery store, right? So I really believe that we need to be on the ground, us as technologists, right? We should be in the communities. We should be helping and seeing how we can drive and educate our own. As far as what segment, right? I think the segment. I don't think it's limited to one segment, right? I think it's Latinos where we have the entrepreneur spirit, right? Where we open up businesses, we do a lot of different things, right? So as far as the industry goes, again, it's all industries. It's when whatever industry that we're in, right? It's more of how do we get out there and have the dialogue, educate them, right? In terms of what the possibilities are, right? And then again, use platforms, right, to help give them the skills, right, to have them learn AI and things of that nature. So again, I think it's more of us. We need to go out to the communities, spend time in the communities, and educate them.
Anybody want to add? That was good. No, you good?
Yeah, good.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Magda Sanchez. I am a consultant at Dell Technologies, and I want to start with Kai. You talked about values. I have a degree in supply chain, and I'm working on a Gen AI product. How do you professionally disagree with a critical business decision that would impact many people?
How do I professionally disagree?
Yes. When everyone in the room wants to go a certain way, but you feel strongly another decision or another route should be taken, how do you do that professionally?
I always use and equip myself with data at scale. And I can tell a quick story that I've told in the past. Some of you may remember that we had a product at Salesforce that we launched, for those of you who are in the industry, called Einstein, and it was a talking Einstein character that kind of was like an Alexa. And I was the one who had to do the research on this product. It was like brand mastery internally within Salesforce. Our CEO absolutely loved it, wanted to bring it to market. I actually spoke on the keynote for this lovely product. I actually think it's freaking cute. However, the research that we acquired for it was very polarized, and it was not a slam dunk. So whilst very many people within the organization were like, no, full steam ahead, I had to be the person who said, this is polarizing. There are risks associated with it. Did I say don't build it? No. But what I said is that the data shows that there's a significant population that thinks it's stupid. So perhaps we might be able to think of alternative strategies that serve us and serve our bottom line. So that's how I do it.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's move over here.
Yeah, hi, I'm Fernando with Capgemini, Supply Chain Transformation.
Hey, Fernando.
I guess this goes to Manuel. Manuel, I have a question for you. You mentioned a higher adoption of AI in Latin America. What security measures do you see for the many bad actors taking advantage of ransom crime, fake images, and so forth?
Yeah. So the quick adoption that we are seeing is, and I put it as an example, the countries of Chile, right? They have been adopting a lot of the GenAI features, especially in the development, in the SDLC, as well as in small areas of the business. What we have implemented there, or we see it implemented as well, it is on the quality check on the development. So they haven't focused that much in terms of the fake analysis, at least on the financial industry perspective. I tell you from a development cycle, cloud adoption, and strategy, the focus is how we can create the safety nets, right, safeguards for the proper usage, right? So created roles and responsibilities around the organizations, creating a huge data set of what applications will be allowed or not to have some Gen AI components of it, what users can have access to it. We have developed as well a governance body across the organization that will set the guidelines and policies on adoption, but we haven't dealt yet for deepfake analysis, at least in the financial industry.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We got time for one more.
Perfect, thank you. Ana Aristizabal from Colombia. Thank you all for an amazing panel. I work for H-Tech Group. It's a digital transformation company based in the Balkan region, and we've been working with many clients, helping them designing their implementation of AI. And Kai, going back to your product design topic, and how to shape the supply chain with the right data, how to structure, what's your thoughts around structuring governance for AI and data in the companies?
Ooh, that's a really big question. And I know that you spoke about it briefly, David, which is every company has its own culture, right? So you have to start there. So what is going to drive compliance? What is going to drive individuals' ownership and contribution to the goals of the company? That's most important, right? In addition to that, there has to be the top-down narrative of investment and buy-in from the executives that know that this is important. I'll give you one example of how this has worked effectively. We have strike teams. We've got AI governance sort of teams that have been built that are oftentimes cross-functional and have representation across the business. Oftentimes what I do see is that the customer is not included in those governance committees. So let's remember to include them, in addition to all of the cross-functional leaders that we have that are responsible for the development of AI within an organization as you're building up and setting up your governance models. I'll share one example that's not necessarily mine to share, but I saw it at a conference recently. There is a large logistics conference product that is world-renowned, and their CEO basically insisted that the data from every single department had to be 98% clean, or you would get docked pay.
Interesting.
So that means you're committed from the top down, right? So let's be serious about it if we really want to actually deliver against it. And we need to make sure that the CEOs are equipped to be able to deliver against it as well. So that's one example.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you for the question.
So we're over time. What I wanted to do is thank you, right, for participating, listening. I wanted to thank my my panel, right, for sharing their experiences and kind of giving us some insight. We're going to be around for the rest of the day, so grab us if you need us. And want to thank High Tech for allowing us to be up here to speak at this time. So thank you very much. And with that, we'll close.